During summer vacation, my son said he wanted to go to a park in South Africa to see wild elephants. I objected that going abroad to see wild animals is too dangerous. It's better to travel domestically. But my husband insisted that the whole family go for a relaxation trip. And he said that his secretary had already bought the plane tickets. I wouldn't have to worry about it then. Unable to resist my son's pleading eyes, I softened and agreed. However, when we arrived at the wildlife area, my son threw his basketball out of the car. I said we could just leave the ball and buy him another one later. But my son cried and made a fuss, insisting that I get out of the car to pick it up. He said there was a signature of a basketball superstar on that ball. My husband was driving. My husband's secretary was sitting in the back row holding my son and comforting him. I had to get out of the car to pick up the ball. As soon as I got out of the car, the wild elephants behind me charged at me. When I wanted to turn back, my husband actually drove away directly and left me alone. In the end, I was trampled to death by the herd of elephants. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the day when my son mentioned that he wanted to see wild elephants. I looked at the people I thought were my family in front of me, nodded and agreed with a smile. This time I want to see who sends who away. One mom. You said that if I got the first place in the final exam, you would fulfill one of my wishes. Does that still count? When I opened my eyes, I saw my son Henry's face again. He opened his big watery eyes and looked at me pitifully. I looked at my husband William sitting in the living room. He smiled and spoke for his son, Henry. Since you got the first place this time, you can make any request. Mom and Dad will definitely agree to you. My gaze shifted back and forth between the two of them, listening to the same words as in my previous life. I really was reborn. But at this moment, I didn't dare to show any emotion. I lowered my head, suppressed the anger in my heart and asked my son, "Your wish is to go to South Africa to see elephants?" After hearing my words, both of them widened their eyes. Sure enough, William had known Henry's wish long ago. "Mom, how did you know?" My son is young and not good at pretending. Besides doubts on his face, there was also a little bit of panic. In contrast, William was much calmer. In a short while, his face had returned to calm. I twitched the corner of my mouth and said with a smile, "Last time when I was tidying up your room, I saw the brochure in your drawer." "Mom, then do you agree?" In the past, if I casually rummaged through my son's drawer, he would have started jumping up and saying that I was invading his privacy. But now, he still looked at me somewhat pleasingly. I was even more certain of my guess. In order not to alert them, I nodded and said with a smile, "Okay. Since you want to go, then our whole family can go to South Africa to relax." After hearing my words, my son ran to William and shouted, "Long live Mom." In my peripheral vision, I saw William heave a big sigh of relief. Trying to set a trap for me, right? I want to see who sends who to South Africa to die this time. Too, in my previous life, when my son proposed to go to South Africa to see wild elephants, I objected. I thought it was too dangerous to go abroad to see wild animals. It was better to travel domestically. But my husband insisted on fulfilling his son's wish. He also said that his secretary Anna had arranged everything properly. When the time came, he would take his secretary with him on the trip. I just needed to enjoy the scenery happily. Unable to resist my son's pleading, I softened and agreed. After arriving in South Africa, Anna contacted the car rental company and drove the car over. My husband volunteered and said, "For safety reasons, I'd better drive." Anna glanced at me and respectfully said, "Sister Sophia, Brother Zhang's copilot seat must be for you. I'll sit in the back row with Henry." I looked at Anna in confusion, and couldn't help but mutter in my heart, "This is a trip for our family. Why do we need to bring a secretary?" Anna seemed to see my confusion. Water vapor quickly gathered in her eyes and she said carefully, "Sister Sophia, Brother Zhang was afraid that you would worry. So he asked me to arrange everything. After we visit the wildlife park, I have also arranged a restaurant for you in the evening. It's more convenient for me to follow you all the way. My husband also chimed in, Sophia. Anna is also in South Africa for the first time. Can you bear to leave her? A little girl. In the hotel? Let her follow us. I originally wanted to say, what can't I bear? This is what she should do as a secretary. But as a woman, I felt that there was no need to make it so difficult for her. So I nodded and agreed. Even though I felt that this arrangement was very strange. But since I got married to my husband, he has been very good to me and our child. Every night except for social engagements, he would come home on time. At that time, I blamed myself for a long time. I felt that I was being too suspicious. Then Anna, you sit in the co-pilot seat. I'll sit in the back with Henry. Anna quickly waved her hand. Sister Sophia. How dare I sit in the co-pilot seat? You sit. I'll take care of Henry for you. Just relax. I looked at my husband and then at my son. My son might have seen my concern. He came forward and opened the co-pilot door for me and pushed me in. Mom, you sit in the front row with Dad. It's okay for me to sit in the back, with Aunt Anna. I smiled and nodded. At that time, I felt that I was the happiest woman in the world. Having a husband who can make money and a sensible son. I didn't have to worry about anything. It was the married life that many people dreamed of. But what happened after we arrived at the wildlife park cost me my life. However, I paused and looked at the father and son in front of me and said, let's arrange it for August. William frowned and asked in confusion, why? Anna has already bought the plane tickets. There's no reason. I have something to do this month. Otherwise, you can go by yourselves. I turned and walked into the bedroom. My son followed me and hugged me and acted coquettously. Mom, I want to go and play as soon as possible. I have already told my classmates that I will go on a trip next month. I tore open the packaging of the facial mask and put the mask on my face. The cool feeling made my gradually cooling heart even harder. Henry, I just had a facial treatment recently. I can't go to such a sunny place. But, William walked in and was about to speak. I immediately said, husband, if you are in a hurry to go, then you can go. After all, it's Henry who wants to go. It doesn't matter whether I go or not. Seeing that my attitude was so firm, William had to follow me and said, okay. Dear, I'll ask Anna to rearrange the time. Husband, let me arrange our family trip. Anyway, I have nothing to do at home. After all, Anna is a secretary assigned to you by the company. It's not very convenient for her to always help with these personal matters. Right? What's inconvenient about it? Doesn't she have other work? Of course. But this is going abroad after all. If Anna arranges a trip that I don't like, I might as well not go. I then said, since you are used to Anna's arrangements, then you can go. I am also comfortable at home by myself. Looking at William's distressed face, I was secretly delighted inside. Since I already know that their purpose is to get me to go, then I can take this opportunity to put forward my own requirements. If they don't agree, I won't go. He can't tie me up and take me there. Right? In the end, William conceded and said helplessly, okay. I'll listen to you. But you need to check the final arrangements with Anna before departure. This way, it will be a guarantee for both of us. I nodded. I was constantly deciding the plans for these 2 days in my mind. I want to take advantage of these few days to quickly figure out the doubts in my heart. For Sister Sophia, I'm here to take Henry to the basketball game. Looking at the beautifully dressed Anna at the door, I sneered coldly and nodded. Henry is always very happy to see Anna. He seems to have endless things to say when he is around her. I put my hands around my chest and looked coldly at these two people in front of me. At this time in my previous life, we were about to go to South Africa. So Henry didn't have time to participate in the competition. But this life is different. As the time to go to South Africa is postponed, He can go after finishing the competition. Before this, no matter how close Anna was to my family, I would only suspect that there was a problem with William. But now it seems that the problem is not only with William. When I think about it carefully, I find that Anna, as William's secretary, has intervened in our family's affairs too much. Just as they were about to leave, William came out of the study. Wife, I'll also send Henry there. I haven't watched my son play basketball for a long time. Anna stepped forward and skillfully tied William's tie. I nodded and didn't want to pay much attention to the people in front of me. Okay. Then you go. I just take a beauty sleep. As soon as I returned to the bedroom, I heard some movement in the kitchen. It seemed that Anna was going to make breakfast for them. After a while, I heard them getting up. Presumably they were about to leave. I quickly put on my coat, sunglasses and a mask and followed the three of them out. The place where Henry competes is in the square in front of our house. It only takes 5 minutes to walk there. As soon as we left the community, Anna stood in the middle and held William's and Henry's hands on both sides. The three of them looked like a loving family. 5 even though I was reborn and had made full psychological preparations. Seeing this scene, my heart still ached. I stood stupidly at the intersection. It seemed that my feet were filled with lead and I couldn't take a step. Suddenly, it felt like something hit me from behind. I turned around and saw a boy carrying a sack and picking up bottles. When he saw me, he apologized in a panic. Auntie, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just now I accidentally twisted my foot and hit you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. His face had turned red and he kept bowing. I was just about to scold him. But when I saw his sallow and emaciated face, my heart inexplicably ached. He should be about the same age as Henry. Henry has no worries about food and clothing. During summer vacation, he either travels or goes to interest classes. But at this age, he has to go out and pick up bottles to make a living. It's okay. It's okay. Hearing what I said, the boy kept backing away. I saw that there was an electric pole behind him. I quickly reminded him, watch the road. But he still bumped into it. A bump quickly swelled up on his forehead. It was almost about to hit the corner of his eye. I anxiously took his hand and took him to the grocery store nearby to buy ice and apply it. While thanking me, he wanted to leave. Seeing his grimacing in pain, I offered to take him home. He took a look at me and smiled shyly. He refused. Auntie, my home is nearby. I'll be there soon. I was a little worried and followed him. But after turning 2 corners, I saw him walk to the tent set up under the bridge. My heart was a little sour. There is never a lack of suffering in this world. It's just that many of us haven't experienced it. Thinking that the child I carried for 10 months and painstakingly raised actually recognized someone else as his mother. Tears couldn't help but well up in my eyes. Auntie, why are you still here? Henry's hand is broken, and he has gone to the hospital. What? 6 When I arrived at the hospital, Henry was lying in Anna's arms crying. William was standing on the side comforting the two of them. When he saw me, he was stunned at first. Then his expression immediately changed. Sophia, why are you here? I pushed Anna away and anxiously looked at Henry's hand. Henry, how are you? Are you okay? Henry didn't even look at me. He turned his back and wiped his tears. I still wanted to ask more. William put his arm around my shoulder and comforted me. Sophia, don't worry first. Henry just has a cracked bone in his arm. After putting on a brace, he can go home. I pushed him away and shouted, William, such a big thing as your son's fracture. Why didn't you tell me? Also, how did you take care of your son? He can get injured right under your nose. Pushed by me like this. The report sheets in William's hands scattered all over the floor. At this time, Henry turned his head and said, Mom, are you annoying? I'm already in enough pain. If you are so noisy, why don't you go home first? I looked at him incredulously. I didn't expect him to say such words. 2 days ago, He was still gently asking me to accompany him to South Africa. Now he has completely changed his attitude. I stepped back step by step. My peripheral vision just happened to catch a blood test report on the ground. Henry's blood type. Blood type B. How is this possible? I am blood type A. William is blood type O. How could Henry be B? I looked at William in shock, and then at Henry. Finally, I turned my gaze to Anna's face. So it is. It's actually like this. But where did the child I gave birth to after 10 months of pregnancy go? 7. I returned home in a daze. All I could think about was where my missing child had gone. I locked myself in the storage room and searched for the footprints of my child when he was just born. I remember the day before I gave birth. William said he had to go on a business trip to another place. No matter how much I pleaded with him, he said he had to go. That night, I slipped on the oil spilled in the kitchen, enduring the severe pain in my stomach. I crawled for more than half an hour before I reached the living room and touched my phone to call 120. I gave birth for a day and a night in the hospital. The doctor couldn't contact William and his family. In the end, I signed the papers myself before giving birth by cesarean section after a difficult labor. On the 3rd day after I was hospitalized, William finally arrived late. I endured the severe pain in my body and mentioned divorce to him, but he began to admit his mistakes with smoughten tears and asked me to give him another chance. During that time, he took good care of me and Henry. He even hired a confinement nurse for the first time, so that I could be free after giving birth. Seeing his good attitude, I gradually softened my heart and didn't mention divorce again. Suddenly, I saw a photo frame under an abandoned box. I picked it up trembling. On it were Henry's footprints when he was just born. I remembered that when Henry was just born, there was a black mole on the sole of his foot. At that time, I was still worried and asked the doctor if it was serious and whether it should be removed as soon as possible while the child was still young. The doctor said to observe for a period of time. If the mole didn't get bigger, there was no need to worry. Later, after I took the child home and looked at the sole of his foot again, there was no trace of the mole at all. I was happy for a long time at that time and thought it was God's blessing, but I never expected that my child was actually switched. Then where did my child go? William. How cruel he is. Just when I was gnashing my teeth in grief and anger, I heard the sound of the door opening. Henry. Go back to your room and rest first. It was Anna's voice. After that, I heard 2 sounds of doors closing, and there was no movement in the living room. I secretly opened a crack in the door. After confirming that there was no one in the living room, I tiptoed and crouched by the door of the master bedroom. The voices of William and Anna came from inside. William. I can't wait a minute anymore. Tell that old woman Sophia to get out. Baby. Don't be angry. We have endured for so many years. It's not a few days short. When she goes to South Africa with us, we will let her die there without anyone knowing. William. At the beginning, you said that her family had demolition funds that we could take advantage of. For you, I was separated from my own son for more than 10 years. I can't endure it for a minute now. Every time I see her face, I can't wait to kill her. And you still keep asking me to be humble and submissive. Baby. Don't be angry. At least our son lives with us. When we left her child at the gate of the welfare home at the beginning, we don't know if he is dead or not now. William. Are you still thinking about the child of this bitch? Tell me. Is it? Baby. How is it possible? In my heart, there are only you and Henry. I felt cold all over and my brain stopped thinking for a moment. Even though I was prepared and even though I had already pieced together the truth. But when the truth was exposed nakedly in front of me, I still couldn't believe that William could be so cruel. At the beginning, when my family had a car accident, it was William who accompanied me through that dark period. I thought he really loved me. But I never expected that from the beginning to the end. He was always after my property. If I hadn't been reborn, I wouldn't even know that the child I gave birth to with so much pain was actually switched. I stayed in the storage room for a long time. I didn't come out until I heard William going out with May again. 9 At this moment, all I could think about was where my son was. Where on earth did they throw my son? But I can't show my flaws now and can't question them. If I am found out, maybe these two people will become so crazy that they will silence me in advance. I helplessly squatted in the middle of the living room, recalling the details of getting along with William over and over again in my mind, hoping to find some clues. Suddenly, I thought of it. William had a safe in the bedroom. If nothing unexpected happened, there should be some secrets in it. I found the key in the bottom cabinet of the closet and carefully opened the safe. In addition to a few gold bars, there was also a document inside. I opened it and saw that it was actually my personal accident insurance policy. In the beneficiary column, William was filled in. I almost forgot about this. Last time when they had a dinner party, William said that he couldn't drink because he had taken cephalosporin, so he asked me to drink on his behalf. In a daze, he asked me to sign a name. When I asked him again the next day, he said it was the parent's signature on his son's test paper. I didn't suspect it anymore. It turned out that he had set up such a big trap and was just waiting for me to die. As long as I die, their family of 3 can live a happy life with my money. 10 After putting the insurance policy back in the safe, I stumbled out of the house. Along the way, I was recalling every bit of the past 10 years. Looking back now, in fact, everything has traces to follow. For example, when I held Henry when he was a child, he would cry. But when Anna held him, he would be happy. For example, Henry has never been close to me but loves to stick to Anna. For so many years, I have mentioned more than once why Anna has always stayed in the position of secretary. Her and William's words were very consistent. They said that the company offered a very high salary. A good secretary is comparable to several department managers. I actually believed such a ridiculous statement. The rain was getting heavier and heavier, mixed with my tears. I stood in the square and looked around at everything. At this moment, I just wanted to know where my child who was abandoned and just after birth was. Is he doing well now? Will he be bullied without parents? When I was lost in thought, my sleeve was gently pulled. I turned my head and saw the boy I met last time. Auntie, the rain is so heavy. Let's go and hide on the side. He didn't have an umbrella either. The rain hit his young face. I nodded and took his hand and ran towards the high-rise building on the side. But unexpectedly, he was wearing slippers and couldn't run well. The rain was too heavy. When he wasn't paying attention, he fell to the ground. I squatted down and was just about to help him up. But I noticed that there was a black mole on the sole of his foot. For some reason, an inexplicable sense of familiarity suddenly rose. Just like when I first met him. Could this person be my son? With such hope, I carefully pulled 2 of his hairs and took them for a paternity test. When the result came out, I excitedly hugged the report and cried uncontrollably. Henry came over and asked with a puzzled face, "Mom, what's wrong with you?" I looked at him and said sinister lie, "Nothing. I'm just too excited thinking about going to South Africa." The 4 of us came to South Africa. The hotel was booked by me before. For convenience, I specially booked 3 rooms. 1 room for William and Henry, 1 room for me, and 1 room for Anna. When I got the room card, William patted my shoulder satisfactorily. "Sophia, you are becoming more and more sensible now." "Oh, really?" I looked at the 3 people walking in front of me. William and Henry entered the room first. At the door, Anna still said in a proper manner, "If there is anything, come to me. Don't bother Sister Sophia if it's something that can trouble me." I watched their increasingly unscrupulous performances with a smile. It seemed that they were already confident about killing me. I walked straight to my own room and said with a smile, "Anna, it's so good to have you here. Then I'll rest first. Don't disturb me if there's nothing." Anna put her hand on William's shoulder. Sister Sophia. Don't worry. During this time, you just need to relax. I ignored her. After closing the door, I blocked these 3 pieces of trash outside. Tomorrow we will go to the South African park to see elephants. I have to replenish my strength well. It will take a lot of effort to kill all 3 of them. 12 early the next morning, I knocked on the door of William's room with 3 bottles of alcoholic beverages and breakfast. There was a lot of commotion inside. Needless to say, Anna must be inside, looking at William, who opened the door in a panic. I said without any waves in my eyes, "Husband, I brought breakfast and drinks for you. After we finish eating, we will set off." He took the drink from my hand and didn't even have time to take a look before drinking it in one gulp. Just as I was about to step into Anna's room, William grabbed my hand. "Sophia, Anna went out early in the morning for something. You give it to me first and I'll give it to her later." I nodded. "Okay. You and Henry must remember to have breakfast." Just as I was about to leave, Henry came out of Anna's room holding a basketball. When he saw me at that moment, he was a little shocked. But then he said, "Mom, I will bring this ball with me later." I frowned. "What are you bringing this for? Your hand isn't healed yet. What if you get injured again?" "Mom, you are just so nagging. There is a signature of a basketball superstar on this ball. I want to take him all over South Africa." I sneered and thought, NPH. All over South Africa. It should be that he wants to use the ball to kill me. If I thought Henry was innocent before, at this moment I already understand that this child I have brought up since childhood is actually so malicious. At almost 10 o'clock, the 4 of us gathered at the hotel entrance. When the car I rented came, William took the lead and walked to the door of the driver's seat and said, "I will drive today." Anna echoed, "You are so kind. I really envy Sister Sophia for having a husband like you." I glanced at them and pushed William away. "I'll drive." Anna stepped forward and blocked in front of me. "Sister Sophia, let William drive. He is a man. Do you know that driving in South Africa requires an international driver's license? Women can also drive." "Anna." The 2 of them looked at each other. I knew what they were thinking in their hearts and pursed my lips. "Anna, when we get to the place to see elephants, take a family photo for the 3 of us. Since we have come to South Africa so hard, we always have to get close to the elephants." After hearing my words, Anna immediately laughed out loud. Then she nodded and said, "Okay. Sister Sophia." I watched them get into the car one by one. Anna also told Henry to be sure to bring that basketball. 13 I drove the car to the South African park. Further inside is the area where elephants appear. I looked at the sign erected, which read "No entry." "Do we still need to drive in?" Henry was sitting in the back seat, excitedly leaning his hands on the back of my chair and constantly patting my shoulder. "Mom, I want to see elephants. Doctor in quickly." I turned to look at William sitting in the passenger seat. He and Anna exchanged glances. Then he said gently to me, "Sophia, since Henry wants to see it, just drive in with confidence. Didn't you say that you also want our whole family to take a photo together?" This was my last chance for them. If they let me go, at least I will give them a way to live. Since it was like this, I nodded and continued to drive forward. The memories of my previous life gradually became clear. I even remembered where I got out of the car. When I was about to drive to that position, Henry opened the window. He was bouncing the basketball in his hand. I could see clearly in the rearview mirror. Finally, he directly threw the basketball out of the car. "Mom, stop quickly. Go down and help me pick up the ball." I stopped the car but didn't turn off the engine. "Henry, this is a dangerous area. There are elephants nearby. Let's not pick up this ball." "I don't. There is a signature of a basketball superstar on this ball. I want this ball. Go down and pick it up for me. Hurry up and pick it up. If you didn't Dr. so unstability, my ball wouldn't have fallen out of the window." I looked at Anna, then let Antina go down and pick it up. "I am driving and it's not convenient for me to get down." At this time, I could already feel the huge commotion of elephants coming from a distance. Anna immediately hugged Henry, who was in an unstable mood. Sister Sophia, Henry is in such a bad state. I'd better stay in the car and take care of him. Yes. Just as William opened his mouth, I said coldly, husband. Then you go down? You were driving. Of course it's you who should go down and pick up things that are dropped. Where is there such a reason in the world? These three people are really a family. Despicable enough. The sound of elephants was getting closer and closer. I knew they must have done something to the basketball. Otherwise, the elephants wouldn't come towards us with such a clear target. They really did everything they could to make me die. Seeing that I refused to get out of the car, William unfastened his seat belt and pushed me out of the car with his hands and feet. William, are you crazy? Why do you insist on making me get out of the car? Didn't you say you wanted to go down and take a group photo? Then what do you mean by pushing me like this? William's face gradually became hideous. He took off his previous disguise and said viciously, it means making you get out. Anna and Henry also helped him from the back seat. The three of them tried to push me out of the car, and helped me unbuckle my seat belt. Henry reached out from the back row and helped me open the car door. Do you want me to die? Yes. We want you to die. The sound of elephants was getting closer and closer. It should be very soon to reach our car. Half of my body had already been pushed out of the car by them. Just at this moment, the strength of their hands pushing me gradually disappeared. William fell back and slumped on the passenger seat. Anna and Henry also lost their strength. I quickly sat back in the driver's seat and quickly closed the car door. Sophia, what did you do to us? Anna pointed at me angrily. I looked at them and sneered. You can design me. Can't I design you? I put anesthetic incense in the car. After you smell it, you will be weak all over. The elephants were already behind our car. I asked Henry, do you still want the basketball? Henry nodded desperately. Mom, I want this ball. Then you can choose. Either you go down and pick it up yourself or let Anna go down and pick it up for you. Hurry up. Otherwise, when the elephants really catch up, we will all have to die. Henry looked at Anna and asked somewhat doubtfully, are you sure you won't drive away? No. Henry turned to look at Anna. Aunt Anna, please go down and pick up the ball for me. You can get it by opening the door and taking a step or two. Please. I also urged. Hurry up. Otherwise, I might drive away. I will settle scores with you when we go back. Things happened in an instant. They didn't know my plan, and didn't know my intention. Of course, they wouldn't know that I actually already knew all the truth. They all thought that I was still as easy to deceive as before. Anna looked back. The elephants were probably still about to car lengths away from us. She quickly opened the door. As soon as one of her feet stepped on the ground, I seized the opportunity and stepped on the gas pedal to the floor. When Anna wanted to hold on to the car again, she had already been thrown far away by me. Henry shouted from the car door, Mom! What are you shouting for? Your mom is sitting here. If you want to go and die, you can also get off. William wanted to hit me, but because he had exerted too much force just now and inhaled more anesthetic incense than them, his body was now even weaker. I watched Anna being surrounded by the herd of elephants from the rearview mirror. Then, just like in my previous life, she was trampled to death. The corners of my mouth unconsciously curved upward. The pain I suffered in my previous life. I will let all of you experience it one by one. I continued to drive. Henry noticed that I was not driving in the direction of the hotel and asked me in panic, Mom, where are you going? Don't worry. Mom will take you to a good place. 14. Sophia. Let me go quickly. William woke up first. At this time, his hands were tied behind his back on a stool by me. I held a sharp knife and gently slid it across his face. Let you go. William, do you think you can still live? Sophia, for so many years, I have provided for you and clothed you. Where have I treated you badly? Why do you want to put me to death? William shouted excitedly. His body also struggled violently, trying to break free from the restraint of the rope. I kicked William in the chest. Didn't you just want me to go and feed the elephants? I just wanted you to go down and help Henry pick up the ball. It's you. You vicious woman. You actually killed Anna. Just want me to pick up the ball? You clearly know that it's dangerous to get off the car. But you still force me to get off. Aren't you just trying to make me die? That's just your malicious guess. Do you have any evidence? Evidence? Does dying once count? I know that it is impossible for William to admit planning to kill me. Now he can completely clear himself. After all, in this life, I am still alive and well. William, then, how are you going to defend yourself about losing my child? William was silent for 2 seconds. His eyeballs rolled. The child? Isn't Henry right in front of you? Are you crazy? What nonsense are you talking? I stabbed the knife into William's thigh. In an instant, he cried out in pain. His upper body struggled even more violently. I sneered, William, give up struggling. Answer me honestly. Maybe I can let you go. If you are still stubborn, then there is no need for us to talk. I will cut off your flesh piece by piece. The pain of giving birth after 10 months of pregnancy is no less than cutting flesh. He heartlessly lost my child. Then I will let his whole body experience the pain I had back then. I didn't. I held the knife horizontally and forcefully dug into William's thigh. A large piece of flesh on his leg was cut off by me. Sophia, are you crazy? At this time, William was covered in sweat because of the pain. Seeing that he had no intention of confessing, I pulled out the knife and was about to cut another piece. I'll say it. I'll say it. Sophia. Sophia. It's not me. Really not me. It's all that crazy Anna. She forced me to lose our child. I had no choice but to listen to her nonsense. Sophia. For so many years, I have always been thinking about that child. Believe me, as long as you let me go, I will bring that child to you immediately. Now that Anna is dead. William actually pushed all the blame onto Anna without blushing or having a guilty conscience. Men's words are really lies. William, you'd better think carefully before you speak. If you lie to me again, this knife won't be obedient. I stabbed the knife into William's thigh again. Now, his blood has flowed all over the place. Ignoring his shouts, I poured salt on his wound. William roared in pain. His hands clenched into fists. The veins on his whole body bulged. His bloodshot eyes stared at me fixedly. It seemed that he would swallow me alive in the next second. But now, I am the one holding the knife and he is the one being cut. Except for staring a hole in me, he can't do anything to me. Sophia, what on earth do you want? Now you are alive and well, and Anna is already dead. What else do you want? I leaned close to William's ear and said in a low voice, so, as long as I am not dead, can all the harm you did to me be ignored? I stabbed his leg with the knife over and over again. His shouts came one after another. In a short while, he fainted from the pain. Henry gradually woke up at this time. When he saw me, he wanted to shout for help. But when he saw William covered in blood, he immediately shut up. I poured a basin of salt water on William. He woke up with a cry. Dad, Dad, save me. Henry, Henry, don't be afraid. Looking at the deep affection between this father and son, I was very curious what choice they would make when faced with life and death. For the sake of our many years of living together, I have decided to leave one alive. The two of you discuss it. Tell me in 5 minutes. Who will become the victim under my knife? As soon as I finished speaking, Henry shouted, Dad, Dad, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. William lowered his head. The pain on his body made him tremble a little, but he still pressed his lips tightly. Dad, Dad, I am still young. I don't want to die. I am afraid of pain. Mom. Let me live. Let me live. I shook my head. Henry. After calling me mom for so many years. Do you really take me as your mom? Mom. You are my mom. Save me. Mom. Please. I held the knife and walked towards William step by step. Seeing that he still remained silent, I was about to stab the knife into his chest. Sophia. We are husband and wife. But Henry. He has no blood relationship with you. Of course it's me who should live. Dad. William. He is your own son. Sophia. Sophia. I love you. It was all that bitchina who threatened me. I looked at the two people in front of me, and couldn't help laughing aloud. People with low morality are always selfish. At the beginning, they chose to let me die for their own interests. Now they will still let the other die for their own sake. I sneered. I think people with such genes don't need to be passed on anymore. Mom. You are my only mom. Don't kill me. Sophia. Don't do this. Sophia. The sharp knife directly stabbed their hearts. Before they could beg for mercy again, I had already stabbed them more than a dozen times. Along with the hatred from my previous life, I have returned all these debts to them. 15. I threw their bodies on the path where the elephants must pass and then bought a plane ticket and returned to China. As soon as I got off the plane, I went straight to under the overpass. There is my child. The child I have been separated from for 2 lifetimes. From today on, I will give him a new life. The end.